Well, hello. Good evening. How is everyone tonight? I hope everyone enjoyed their long Labor Day weekend and you're making your preparations now to start getting ready for work tomorrow or whatever it is that you do. I was just out on a bike ride. I like going out and riding my bike around the neighborhood and just getting some exercise, stretching the old legs. A lot better than sitting around the house all day. I had my earbuds in while I was riding my bike around the neighborhood, and I was listening to some worship music, talking to God, praying. A lot going on. A lot going on in the world right now. A lot going on in our lives personally and friends of ours. Lots, just tons going on. And I was reminded of something incredibly important. And I was talking about this yesterday with my wife and my kids. And it's something so incredibly important that I wanted to share it with you tonight. So here it goes. I want to introduce you to something that is incredibly important. History making, life changing, life altering. One of the most important things that I could ever introduce you to, and it's this. Holy Bible. And I know what a lot of you are thinking right now. Oh, you don't know, I've been going to church for a million years, and I grew up in the church, and I grew up this, and I grew up that. We need to grow up this. And let me tell you why. If you take a look at what's going on in the world right now, we have plagues, pestilences, wars and rumors of wars. There are things being played out in this book on a daily basis that if you don't recognize, if you don't see, if you don't know, you'll never know what's coming. You'll never know what to prepare for. You'll never know what to expect. And if you're cool with just riding on the waves every day and wherever the wind blows you, well, then it's up to you. But this book will tell you what's happening. This book will tell you why it's happening. This book will tell you all sorts of things. If you want to hear the voice of God, this is where you hear it. It's all in here. Every word from Genesis 1:1 to the end of the book in Revelation, it's all the voice of God. And if you really want to hear from God, if you really want to hear the voice of God, if you really want God to speak in your life, it's going to come through this. Because standing outside and screaming to the heavens or getting on your face and crying to God is not going to get you all the answers. This will. This is where the voice of God can be found. And this is so powerful and this is so important that in the 12th through the 16th century, I would say, people died to bring it to you. Yeah, they died. See, there was a group of people who were thrilled that normal, everyday, living folks couldn't read that book. It was in Latin. Only people who are classically trained in Latin, such as the clergy, specifically the clergy in Rome, were the only ones trained to be able to read this book in Latin. And they counted on the biblical illiteracy of the people in the kingdoms, the serfs, the fiefs, the fiefdoms, all that stuff. They counted on their biblical illiteracy to be able to sell them indulgences. They counted on them being biblically illiterate to be able to tell them what it said in here rather than teaching them what it said, or rather than letting them read it for themselves what it said. They wanted to be able to tell them what it said, which is why now we have entire populations of people who believe that there are things in this book that aren't. Tradition is not in here. Ritual is not in here. Rites and incantations, they're not in here. And there are tons of people who went to churches this past weekend who stood up and kneeled and bowed and genuflected and made certain hand gestures and all sorts of other things for no particular reason. Because none of that is in here. And I know because I did it for a lot of years. But let me get back to my point. My point was that the clergy, especially the clergy in Rome, was thrilled when people couldn't read this for themselves because they didn't understand the language. And there are people who took it upon themselves, called by God, inspired by God, to translate this book from Latin into commonly spoken languages that the people could understand. And why were these men labeled heretics and burned at the stake and executed? Had nothing to do with the fact that there's something in here that says you can't read this in the common language. It had everything to do with the lack of control that the church, especially in Rome, would have over people when they were able to read this for themselves and find out that all the things that they were pushing on people didn't actually exist in here. That all the rites that they told people they had to perform, all the rituals that they told people had to perform to go to heaven or to get their mother out of a certain holding place and into heaven, none of that was in here. Here's the bigger problem. I'm talking to you on video, right? That phone that I have in front of me has more computing power than every vehicle that the United States has sent into space and back. More computing power in that device that I can hold in my hand. And on that device, I have a digital version of this. Not only do I have a digital version of this, but it also has about 57 different translations. Some which I will never read, some which I find absolutely enthralling. Yet here we are, regressing back to the 12th, 13th, 14th century, where we're happy to hear from someone else what it says. But we have more access in more languages and in more translations than ever in recorded history, yet we're back to, I want to hear from somebody else. There are churches right now being led by men who are businessmen who know that they can twist this book and count once again on your biblical illiteracy to keep you captive, to keep you in bondage, to keep you believing things that are not in this book, to make you a consumer, to make you a customer, rather than a trained, powerful believer. And I'm telling you, if that's where you're at, run. Run now. Because right now, it's getting real. I don't watch the news anymore. I can't. Occasionally I see the headlines when I open my computer at work, but I don't watch the news. I already know what's going to happen. And all the other stuff that comes along with it, all the irrelevant motions, all the things that we do in the flesh, none of that's going to matter because it's already written in here. It's already written in here. It doesn't matter who sits in a chair in a semicircular office for 4 or 8 years. It doesn't matter who sits in a parliament. It doesn't matter who sits anywhere because it's all written in here. We already know what's going to happen. And because we're going back to the biblical illiteracy that people like William Tyndale died for, we're becoming spiritual dolts. Dolts. Spiritual dolts is the best way I could put it because God made this super simple for us, folks. And cute little stories and anecdotes and relating this somehow to your life is not the way we're going to go through the rest of time in this. I'm sorry. I promised I was going to do a video this week on idol worship, and I will, I promise. I'm going to do it this week. But let's take a few things into consideration. People can be idols. Priests, rabbis, pastors can be idols, especially if they're the ones that are counting on your biblical illiteracy to keep you as a customer. I know, I'm fired up about this. I really am, because guess what? I have family. I have friends who went to certain denominational churches this weekend to be seen in the church, to say the pre-recorded prayers, to do everything up, down, up, down, up, down, all that good stuff, thinking that they're good, thinking that, well, I'm a good person, I'm going to go to heaven because I didn't kill anybody or beat my wife or get... It's irrelevant. Guess what? You can live your entire life never having had a sip of coffee, never beating your wife, never doing drugs, never doing anything, and still go to hell. I don't care if some priest does this to you. I don't care if some rabbi says a prayer over you. It doesn't matter. You're still going to go to hell because it's in here. The instructions on how to avoid going to hell are in here. And if you don't pick it up, and if you don't grab your phone, and if you don't read it for yourself, you have no one to blame because we have more access now than we've ever had in all of recorded history. Yes, I'm fired up. You know what? I'm not mad. I'm hurt. I'm a pastor. There are people watching right now who call me Pastor Jamie. Count on me. And that heart that God gave me for this is why I'm so fired up, because I know there are people watching who are going to go to hell because they believe something they were fed rather than finding out for themselves. My heart breaks. My heart literally breaks when I see members of my family. God, I'm not even close with 99% of my family. They'll tell you that. I haven't seen some of them in years. But my heart breaks for them. Especially when I see what's going on in the world right now. While we're on that subject, no, you know what? I'm not going to go there. Don't let anybody tell you what you should and shouldn't do with your body, okay? If you're going somewhere where they're telling you to do something, run. If you're going somewhere where they're telling you not to do something, run. Because it's not the church's business to tell you what to do with your body. End of story, I'm done. You want to know what to do with it? It's in here. I promise you, because I found it. I can point you in the right direction. I can give you information, but I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body. All right, I'm going back on track now. I have cried at night. I have cried during the day. I have wept tears of sadness for people. People who I know, people who I love, people who I don't love. People that I have relationships with, people that I don't have relationships with, people that think I'm a weirdo, people that don't think I'm a weirdo. I don't care. If you had the cure for cancer, if you had the cure for AIDS, if you knew that truck barreling down the road was headed for a cliff that was going to drop off and everybody was going to die, that busload of nuns joke, right? Would you warn them? Would you tell them? Not only am I trying to warn you, not only am I trying to tell you, but I'm telling you where to find the answers. You can't fit yourself in this book. It's not about you. Oh God, it has so little to do with us. It's got so little to do with us. It's not about us. It's not our story. There's no way you can shoehorn yourself into this thing and make it about you, or make some cute story where you fit into this thing. It's not about you at all. Stop going somewhere where they're starting every time somebody gets up to talk to you about this, it's a joke. Or some funny, cute story. Do you know what the best teacher of the Word of God is? The Word of God. If I stood here right now and read you a verse, it would say more than all of my vain, empty words could ever say. Matter of fact, let's read a verse right now. Where am I? Isaiah 47, 1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground without a throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for you shall no more be called tender and delicate. Wow, okay. I'm not trying to get likes. Matter of fact, there are ministers on here who will get 1 million views on their relatively terrible videos from this past weekend because one of them with a beard and muscles knows how to scream at just the right time to say something, and there's another one who will say, oh, praise the... They'll get millions of views on their useless videos this week, and this video may get 10. You know what? The 10 people that see it are the 10 people that God needs to see it, because right now I'm telling you, you have to get right with God. It's getting crucial. You have to get right with God. I recently heard someone say this, and I'll end with this, because this is for my brothers and sisters who believe they're right with God. I encourage you. A very good friend of mine is on here watching right now, and I know he's on kind of a similar journey that I'm on right now. But for my brothers and sisters who believe that because you raised your hand and walked up front and said some magical prayer, you're good, I encourage you to please pick this up and read it for yourself. William Tyndale, in the 1600s, was excommunicated, beaten, flogged. He was tortured. He was discredited. He was maligned, and then eventually burned alive at the stake because he made this in the common language that you and I and everyone else can read. I was at the Museum of the Bible. Do you realize that there's a room in the Museum of the Bible that shows you every language? It's a big room, it's a big round room, and it shows you every language that this book has been translated in. And I think there was like 7, if I remember correctly, known languages that it hasn't been translated into. Otherwise, it's been translated into every other language. Other groups have appropriated this book and turned it into their own. It's been translated into things that it's not. So don't tell me you don't have access. Please. Please. It's bad enough that we're going back to hieroglyphics and we're talking in emojis. Let's not go back to putting our heads in the sand in the dark ages and relying on other people to tell us what this says. This is tomorrow's news today. Prepare yourself, arm yourself, and get right with God. Jamie at livingacts29.com. livingacts29.com. Email me if you have any comments, questions, concerns. You want to tell me I'm wrong? Fine. You want to tell me I'm right? Fine. You want to mother F me up and down? Fine. I don't care, because it tells me you at least paid attention and something about this convicted you. I love you. I really do. I wouldn't put myself out here like this because I know I'm going to get criticism for this. And you know what? I don't care. I love you. Call me. Text me. Message me. Email me. Message me on here. DM me. Whatever it is that you need to do to get a hold of me. And I will get you whatever information you want, need, desire. I will get you a Bible. If you don't have a Bible, message me, email our church, info at livingacts29.com, and we will send you a Bible, and not some paper junky one that the church is going to give you when you raise your hand and say the magic prayer. We're going to give you a nice one, a good one that you can understand, one that you can cherish, because this Bible right here was given to me by my spiritual stepfather. And I remember the day he gave it to me because no one ever thought enough about me to give me a Bible before. And I love you enough to give you one of these. Message me. message the ministry. If you don't want to talk to me directly, email the church, info@livingacts29.com, and someone, one of us, because there's a whole bunch of us here, that will be more than happy to send you your very own Bible. I'm done for now. I will be doing my video this week on idol worship. Brian highly recommends using an ESV study Bible, if at all possible. And I can definitely agree with that. There's some you should stay away from too, but that's for another video. I love you. Regardless of what you think of me, I love you. God loves you. Come home.